Be still and know that I am God. I hear your cry, I feel your pain. You're caught in struggle, growing weary, doing well.
I want you to know that you're not alone.
You're not alone.
So drop your defenses. You don't have to do it by yourself. Be still. Be still and know that I am God. Be still.
Be still and know.
Still and know
Be
that
still and know
that I am.
that I am. Be still.
Be still, be still.
Be still and know that I am I will sustain.
Yes, I will.
I will strengthen.
I will strengthen.
I will establish.
I will establish in all the earth. Be still, be still, be still.
Be still and know that I am Jehovah. I am omnipotent. I am your healer.
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am. A child of God. I am holy. I am righteousness. Messiah. Emmanuel. I will sustain. I will strengthen. I will establish in all the earth. Be still. Be still and know that I am Jehovah. I am omnipotent. I am your healer. A child of God. I am holy. I am righteousness. Messiah. Emmanuel. Be still, be still, be still. Be still. In your quiet place. Be still, be still, be still. Be still.
So that you know for yourself.
Be still. Be still and know that I
sit and be still. They are in 8 different bodies, but they sing with one voice, and it is a glory to behold. God bless you guys. God bless you. Well, we have more glories to behold today, and I think I'm in the right place. Yes, okay. We are in the year of the courage to imagine. And I'm wondering, how are you imagining your world this year? How is it coming along? Fairly well? Good, great. We got a great down here. That's fantastic. We are in the quarter on the courage to connect, and we have brought forth individuals, and this time a couple, who have had life lessons that we could all benefit from. And the truth is that every single one of us in this sanctuary could sit in these chairs and to bring forth your life lessons. And if we'd seen you from conception to this day, we'd weep with glory and weep with tears of gratitude for what you bring to us. So know that as we get to know Brad and Chad and Brenda Walding.
You did it.
I have been really trying not to do that. But it's Chad and Brenda, not something else that I wanted to say.
Just Chenda.
No, don't get that in my mind. But as we get to know these two beautiful beings, know that that beauty is sitting to your right and to your left and in front of you and behind you as well. Yeah, I got to tell you, I got to know Brenda about a year ago at the women's retreat. And we were dancing at one point, and I was dancing, and she just came up to me, this beautiful being of light, and I'm like, wow, who is this person? So over the last year, I've gotten to know her more deeply, and I've got to know you, Chad, more deeply, and I've been profoundly blessed by that and wanted to bring that to you today.
You know, I asked them if I could share the data of what they do, and they just said no. So, you know, and when I got to know Brenda and Chad, there was a tremendous amount of humility, and I really didn't know what they did other than they had, you know, they were both doctors of physical therapy, and that's how they met, and it was just an eye-opening experience to know a little bit more about what they do. Really, in putting this together, I began to realize the breadth of their work and their ministry, if you will. And I want to ask Chad, how you guys met, and were you spiritually aligned?
Oh, yeah, it's a great story. So it's incredibly cheesy, but it's entirely true that when I was a little boy, I used to go out in the middle of this field. I grew up on a farm, and I would lay out in the middle of the night and look up at a full moon, and I would wish a little girl good night every time. And I was also a very unhappy boy. It's hard to find pictures of me smiling. I was very depressed, and this carried over into my teenage years and young adulthood. But all through that time, I would always look at the moon and be like, just give a little nod, right? And of course, I dated other girls, but I always knew right away they were not that girl on the moon. So I was always drawn to fitness, and that's what led me to become a physical therapist, and I applied to physical therapy school. And I had this like strong feeling that I would meet this girl on the moon there. And I showed up on the first day of physical therapy school, and I was looking around the room, and I was like, that's not it. And then boom, like no doubt in my mind, like that was the girl that I was gonna marry, and I could not stop looking at her, and it became like a problem in class, and like everyone knew, and I was it was in Abilene, Texas, you guys, and I was like very anti-Bible, very anti-church, so it was very difficult for me, and she came from a very Catholic upbringing background, and got into like this Baptist belt kind of thing, and there was just so much confusion because I was like, I know you're the girl I'm supposed to marry, but like she would not even look at me because I was so sad and so depressed and had like no spiritual connection, right? So I knew that like in order to get a conversation going with her, I was gonna have to understand her a little more. We started studying together, started talking about Bible studies and stuff, started going to church. None of it made any sense to me at all, but I was like, if I just have a chance to get to this girl, I'll at least give it a try, right? So that's what I did, and it, like I said, it opened up a spiritual dimension to me and allowed us to start having deeper conversations, but we never really merged, I don't think, until eventually she came around and started dating me. We got married. That was all good stuff. And about 2 years into our marriage, I read The Power of Now. And The Power of Now like woke me up in a huge way because it made me aware of my thoughts, my beliefs, and it gave me a perspective of my story in my head that was causing my depression. So I started meditating, and it led to other books, and that is where I think everything started to change.
Yeah, we were, newly married, and I was like, oh, he's coming along. He's like, I have it all figured out. And I'm kind of mentoring him, and he's coming along, and just this very rigid mindset around spirituality. And, we'll talk about this in a minute, but I started having some health challenges. And so it was a little rocky at the beginning. And I was, wondering, like, oh, we're not really spiritually connecting. And did I marry the right guy? Oh, my goodness. And, he started reading these books. And, I remember a moment laying on the couch, and I wasn't feeling well. And I was in my ego, and I was like, oh, I'm going to bait him with this comment, and I know it's going to just trigger him. And so I said it, and just waiting for, and he was just really calm. And he's like, oh, honey, what can I do for you? In this very genuine way. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And then he started, you saw him reading these books and like meditating, which was new for me. And then I started to, get really curious about what was going on. So then I started to give me that book, start reading it. And it really started to merge our language and our conversation. And I started to open and expand my view of my spirituality, and he began to teach me. And I began to, was humbled in that. And then we started to, merge in terms of growing over the past. We've been married over a decade. So it's just been, like he calls it, taking the red pill. The red one, right?
Hasn't been easy.
So just going down that rabbit hole of expanding our consciousness and spirituality. And so originally not aligned, but starting to, grow and expand and teach each other and grow together.
The red pill is the one that is where you awaken, get together. Just in case haven't seen The Matrix.
The Matrix.
Yeah. I just love this dance between your souls. You came in steeped with a family of religious faith and had a practice, and you practiced it. And then Chad comes in with a fresh view and sees things and kind of awakens from the story in your head that keeps you in that space of angst. And the dynamic dance that you both have evolved at and through because of that. And it's been all wine and roses and peaches and cream, right?
No.
Tell us more about the caterpillar soup and what's that been like? And what is it?
Yeah, she mentioned when we were talking the other day about, I was answering a question, and I described what I was feeling as caterpillar soup, and just this really soupy feeling of this process of transformation when you are, when a caterpillar is going into this process of metamorphosis, and she is inside of the chrysalis. And I don't know if you know much about that process, but the caterpillar has to completely liquefy. It digests its own self, and these imaginal cells begin to use that soup to be able to create a new being. And so I feel like I was in this right now, and have been several times, like we all have, in times of transformation and times of crisis, where you just feel really soupy and it's dark and sticky and you're trying to figure it out. And so we've had several of those, times over the past decade.
Can you share with us a little bit about those times?
Yeah. Want to start?
Yeah, so right after we got married, we had this idea of a wonderful honeymoon, everything will be great, we'll have kids, yada, yada, and none of that happened. So expectations went out the door, but Brenda started feeling very sick. She started getting rashes, she lost a lot of weight, she even started to lose hair, and she had to go on disability for a while. So like that crisis situation hit us very early, and we were kind of thrown in that caterpillar suit thing. So it forced us to grow and evolve spiritually at a very young age, which at the time we're like, why is this happening to us? Why does it have to be that way? And there was this resistance side of us to us, but there was also an invitation to accept the situation and to learn from it. And that's what forced us into learning things that were outside of the typical conventional health realm that we had been taught as physical therapists. So we became students of things like nutrition, went deeper into movement, and then ultimately really deep into spirituality and belief systems and thoughts and all the practices that go along with that, and getting closer to the root of disease, like what's causing all these problems that we have, because things keep getting worse despite our advances in technology, and we keep seeing this kind of theme of disconnection come up, disconnection from who we are, disconnection spiritually, right? So I think that whole process has been getting us back into who we are. But like I said, the rabbit hole keeps going, because even though, we went through those things and we got past them, things kept coming up. We weren't done. We still face challenges.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, we went through a period of me being very sick and him caring for me, and I've been laser focused on, I have to heal myself. How do I heal myself? And really looking at it from a physical perspective of who I am. We were training in nutrition and learning, became a functional nutrition practitioner and yogi and all these different things so I could heal myself. And then, got so much better to the point at which, 8 years have gone by, back to work. We're getting to this place where we finally feel like we can start a family, and which was my dream and my, our vision, and getting ready to go to Italy on our dream trip to start this family, and I find a mass in my breast. And so it was devastating, and, it really, oh man, it was really a really intense time, but it was this, okay, God, I have been trying to fix myself. I have been reaching outside of myself to try to fix myself for the past 8 years. And I've done everything. And so what am I missing? And what I heard was, you need to learn to listen to your heart. And so I was like, I have no idea how to do that. I've been such stuck in my head and very academic. And so that whole process of learning to let go and to surrender, it was kind of a new dimension of the soupiness of healing, and what does it really mean to be healed? And we kind of been navigating that for the past few years together as a whole new deepening of our spirituality, our relationship, our connection, and also a passion inside of me to, I've always been trying to figure out what my purpose is, and so in that really found so many gifts and healings, and being able to share that with other people, especially women.
You two are trained in traditional medicine. You're both doctors of traditional medicine, and yet when you had these initial rashes and stuff, you couldn't find help through the traditional methods, and that's what caused you to look around into different arenas and become certified in so many different ways to help heal. And in the midst of all of that difficulty, you moved out of the traditional realm of healing, started a holistic gym in the Austin area, and then you moved into an online business that has how many followers?
1.5 million, yeah.
1.5 million followers on Facebook, and then how many on your distribution?
3 million.
3 million.
Yeah.
So the compact lessons that you two have learned as couples, you have turned and mined into gold to teach other people how to be free and to be healthy through movement, through diet, through thoughts that you hold inside your mind, and how impactful those are on your body. And so you've created an amazing business. It was highly successful, but it didn't end there. What happened in February of this year?
Yeah, so with this, in the spirit of following my heart, which has been the commitment for the past few years, which has been a beautiful ride, finally woke up and really living my life, of listening to where God would have me go and what God would have me do, and the joy that comes from that. And sometimes it puts you in those positions of feeling really uncomfortable, because you're having to leap when you feel called to something, even though it doesn't make logical sense. And I was really getting the call to leave our company and to work more deeply with women and write a book. So, I definitely didn't want to write a book, and it was like, keep writing a book. And I kept getting that vision. A book really focusing on women dealing with chronic illness or health challenges to take a heart-centered, holistic approach to healing in order to create a life that you love. Because for me, cancer was really this catalyst for radical growth and transformation to create a life that I now love, which I could say before I was just trying, like spinning my wheels trying to heal myself, and I wasn't really living. And I was just living a completely different life now. So quit, stepped away from the business. It's an amazing business, but that was a really challenging decision. So now I am in the process of, my book will come out in October, and created a coaching program for women.
And it's been perfect and wonderful, and you felt great the whole way through. Is that right? Because we think that's true. We think when we walk in the direction of what Spirit is going to pull us toward, that it's going to be sunshine and roses and everything is going to be feeling great. But has that been what you've experienced?
No, it hasn't. We're such, like I said, we're just such students of spirituality and growth, and Chad recently went into the Amazon jungle to live with an indigenous tribe for 40 days. This is, while I'm writing the book. And so it was a time where we didn't speak at all. And we thought, when he comes back, I'm writing a book, he comes back and everything's roses and unicorns and rainbows. And it'll just flow. And so, we've had our challenges and health and some other health challenges that have come up, and all the stuff that comes up when you're being vulnerable, and you're sharing your story with the world, and old shadows and things. So that's where the caterpillar soup came from. Was last week one of my best friends asked me how I was doing. I was like, I'm soupy. I'm soupy again. So, with that process of, surrendering to Spirit and asking what God would have us do is our old stuff, our fears come up, and sometimes it feels uncomfortable, and sometimes it's painful to face some of those shadows, I think, that come up so that they can be healed, so that we can be more fully whole. And we're asking in the spirit of, being healed is moving more towards our wholeness. And so that is a shedding, a letting go. So I say, healing isn't so much about gaining something outside of ourselves, but letting go of all that isn't the true, real, authentic, divine us.
I know that both of you grew up athletes, or both college athletes, and being in rehab is probably why they got into physical therapy. Got to know your therapist quite well. But I can see how that would train you, being an athlete, to think critically and look problematically. What's wrong?
Yes.
Focusing on the negative. But you demonstrated a huge shift in your consciousness by all these illnesses. Chad shared with us that you were actually singing in going into your surgery.
Yeah.
It represents such a massive shift. Like Anita Murjani said that outwardly she was doing everything when she got cancer. She was wheatgrass and juicing and everything, but it was her psyche that had to shift. And you guys had massive shifts through the hard school, the difficult school.
Yeah.
But I want to shift and ask, Chad, what lights your passion? What is yours to do?
Well, I think I need to talk about the biggest punchline on that trip. There's a whole world that happened within that cancer thing that, we kind of left out there, which is, she had the courage to follow her heart and not do a conventional route when faced with a diagnosis. And that was scary as hell, right? And we went to San Antonio and did treatment there for 2 months. Didn't work. We went to California and did treatment there and didn't work. We spent all our money, we lost all our home. And in that situation, that's when she went and had to have surgery anyway. And how awesome my wife is when she was on the way to the operating room, she sang. This is my fight song. That's how courageous she is, right? And it's really woken us up to facing these challenging circumstances with courage, right? Because we all have these difficult circumstances that come up. We're all going to feel fear, but there's this distinction between the hero and the coward, right? The difference is what they do with that fear. One can run and hide and become a victim identity and tell a sad story and kind of create this posture of this is what's happened to me. Or the other one can be the hero and really go on and live a great story and claim this posture and speak from different places and act from different places, right? So as far as what lights me up, it's it's growing and overcoming things with courage, and then creating a beautiful world and living through our mission and our values and really getting clear on that. There's nothing more inspiring than that to me.
And I would like you both to describe the world that you see.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the inspiration comes from stuff with Eckhart Tolle, but also like when Reverend Brummett was up here and he spoke about these different eras that have happened with human consciousness. And he talked about the era of instinct, which to me is like us being in the garden, you know, where there's no like war, there's no poverty, there's no disease. We're kind of like in the animal kingdom. And then we evolved to this era of instinct, which is where
Intellect.
the intellect, yeah, but like within that era is like lots of ego, lots of judgment, lots of comparison, but also beautiful technology and advancements in language and things. But we've come to the end of that era, and we're going into a new era of intuition. You know, like I think Brenda's story of like, oh, I'm so cerebral, I'm in my head, I got to figure all things out, and the answer is like within. It's this divine intelligence inside of us that has this infinite wisdom. So I think as a species, like we're at the tipping point. We're going into this era where the dominant energy is going to be one of love and cooperation and oneness, as opposed to like I win, you lose, and separation and identity, right? We're going to have a new identity. So like we've felt this in our own lives, in our own transformation, and we've learned about this stuff and we've witnessed it, and now we're trying to teach people through better ways of eating, moving, thinking, and healing, and we're seeing it happen, you know, and now we have the technology to connect online and share stories, and that presents its own problems because we're kind of losing presence, but the possibility of transformation is right here, right now. Yeah.
There's this pathway from the intellect to the heart that has brought you to a deeper sense of connection. And for just a moment, would you share with us, if you do women's work, this is what you've called to write about, you do men's work, there's something sacred in this tribal understanding of that circle. Can you share briefly with us about that?
Yeah, so you talked about our vision of the new earth. What was really profoundly healing for me going into having a mastectomy was, I was mostly navigating this path, not telling a whole bunch of people so that I could learn to listen within. But then there's this whole element of being vulnerable and allowing people to see you and to hear you. And so I reached out to my dear sisters, and they created this beautiful healing circle for me. And for the first time in my life, I was in a sacred container to be able to share my fears and to be authentic. And it just flipped a switch in me. It was like, this is this primal feeling of this is how we're supposed to be in community with each other as social beings. And so it ignited a passion in me to be a cultivator of connection and to cultivate these sacred circles with women. And it was so profoundly healing for me and every single woman in that circle. And so I've, come forth from that experience and started a women's circle here. And Chad does men's circles and men's work, and then coming together in community gatherings and creating tribe, because I think that's one of the missing elements of any person dealing with a health challenge is community and connection. I think we're we're at this time the most lonely and disconnected that we've ever been. And it's something, even, researchers are showing that I think one of the statistics was it's like 45% increased likelihood of premature death was loneliness and obesity, pollution, some of these things that you would think would be higher up. They were lower on the scale. Loneliness was higher, one of the highest things. And so it's something that we have to consciously cultivate, that type of connection where we are seen, heard, and valued. Brene Brown talks a lot about this, and where I've learned so much about that. And the path to that is willing to be vulnerable.
I just am so grateful for both of you, and I have to share that they have the thing they share with one another, which is called noble speech. And it's holding the high watch for your partner as they're walking through something. And this element of all in, not a hesitation when Brenda says, let's go and do this alternative therapy. Chad's all in, they sell the house, they lose it all. All in to devote yourself to the growth, to the lessons, the challenges that life is bringing, to mine the gold and then to create something new and better. They have a better house now. It has a lake view. I mean, spirit doesn't leave us hanging, but you got to hang in there, all in. I love you all. I love you, Brad and Chin. Brenda and Chad, I love you dearly,
Brad and
both of you. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Love you guys. Sorry. Thanks, Chad. Love you. Would you mind grabbing a chair?
Wow. Awesome. I would invite everybody right now to just sit and just go inside and listen. Let's just have a minute of listening. Let's go in and ask Spirit, what is ours to do? What is our role that we play? How do we involve ourselves in the service of uplifting consciousness? How do we serve? What's ours to do? What will satisfy that passion, that Christ within us that wants to see healing, that wants to see peace, that wants to see love? Thank you, sweet Spirit, for this truth that sets us free by showing us the way to step into our truth, to do that which is ours to do. Thank you, sweet Spirit. All right. Come on down, ushers. And there's, as part of a spiritual community, what's ours to do is to involve ourselves and serve in this community. I like the Unity's fifth principle. Knowing the truth is not enough. You got to live it. And I want to marry that together with the 12th step. You know, having a spiritual awakening, we want to share that with somebody else. How can we not when we've experienced a transformation? So together, putting the 12th step and the fifth principle together, we raise consciousness through love. Amen? Amen. So if you've brought your offering or you're giving by text to give, hold your phone or your offering in your hand. Let's bless it together. Amen? Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I circulate, and I am grateful. Hallelujah.
Thank you for joining us today. If you like the message, we invite you to like it or share it. And we also want to let you know that we're on Instagram, Twitter, and we'll see you again next Sunday on Facebook at 11:25.
We're a New Thought church where lives are transformed. And we welcome you to check us out. Check out our website, unityhills.org. We'll see you next week.
Namaste.